Welcome to the Rockbridge Reports on the Record. I'm Sarah Korash-Schiff. I'm here with Ethan Kipnes, the Washington and Lee University Director of Public Safety. Mr. Kipnes, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on your appointment to the post.
Thank you very much.
I guess I'm just going to start with my first question. Prior to coming to Washington and Lee, you worked up north. You worked at Keene State. And so I was just wondering, what made you choose to come to WNL over other schools and to leave Keene?
Well, I had a really good circumstance in my life that I was sort of available and open to go anywhere. So I was looking for really the right opportunity and looking for a good university, a good community, a place that I would enjoy living for the next significant portion of my life, and found that when I came visiting at Washington and Lee, and when I came here and started meeting people, everything sort of fell into place, and I knew it was the right place to be.
Okay. I understand the environments are kind of similar. We're in the mountains and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Did that attract you to it, the similarities to being back home?
Absolutely. It is, from a community perspective and a location perspective, it is very similar to many of the places that I've lived, with a little less snow, which was okay with me too.
Okay. And I also understand that the Keene student body is about double what WNL has at 5,000, I think I was reading.
That's correct.
How has that affected your job and what you have to do here that we have half the population? Does it make it easier?
Well, one of the things that that again drew me to WNL is the type of community that it is. I have worked at several small colleges, and Keene State still fits into that small college definition technically, but when you start getting into those numbers, you certainly have less of a connection with much of the student body, and the community starts to feel a little bit bigger. So another one of the things that attracted me here was the fact that it is a small, close-knit community, and that is one of the things that I definitely like about working on a college campus, especially where you have that small community feel.
Okay. The home environment of the university.
Absolutely.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess getting down to the nitty gritty, what exactly does your job entail? What responsibilities do you have?
Well, ultimately, I view the public safety department as having multifaceted role. Certainly, primarily, it is the primary, I call it sort of pseudo law enforcement, a little bit different than a traditional police department, but it does fill that role on a college campus. So the security, pseudo law enforcement aspect of it. But also I see a public safety department on a college campus being able to fill a lot of other roles that you may not see in a traditional community law enforcement agency, where we can have a much closer connection to the student body and to the community, and interact in many other ways as well, and get involved in programming and being part of the educational atmosphere of a university community. So certainly I see that we also have a role in a lot of that as well. And one of the areas that we'll be looking at moving forward within the public safety department will be how can we become more involved in those aspects. So getting involved with students in their residence halls and in different classroom environments, and really where it makes sense to infuse that idea of public safety and security into the everyday life and education inside and outside of the classroom as well. So that's sort of my view of the overall public safety department, and then certainly myself as the director am responsible for sort of all aspects of that. And I look at it from a big picture perspective. So I have a lot of great people that I work with that thankfully are wonderful at taking care of the day-to-day operations, which allows me to, as the director, really focus on a lot of those big picture and how do we make all of those connections and accomplish all of those different aspects of what we should be doing as a department.
Okay, and so you briefly mentioned working with outside law enforcement a little bit.
Sure.
There's been a couple of serious stabbing incidences that have happened. I'm sure you've heard in the news. What is the university's take on that, and what do you think you want to advise students to be aware of in the local community when they're leaving campus?
Okay. Well, I definitely think that first and foremost, from a security perspective, I think it's important that our message should always be to anybody, regardless of where they are, that you can never you can never forget about security. I mean, it's important to remember that you have to be aware of your surroundings and take some ownership in your own personal safety, no matter where you are. Certainly, we generally, on a day-to-day basis, feel like there's less concern about that when we're in an area that that there's just less crime, certainly less serious crime. Statistics will show on college campuses all over the world that generally they are safer places, but we can never forget about the idea of safety and security. So that goes for on campus and off campus. And I think that's another one of the important aspects of a college campus is that a lot of times wherever we go, and I've been on several college campuses, and the feeling is the same everywhere you go, that everybody knows everybody in the community and everything. It's a safe place and everything is great, and generally that is the case. But it is also very open, and that's the idea of a college campus, is that it's an open environment and welcoming of other people and having events on campus all the time. So it's not just folks that we're used to in the community, but there are a lot of folks that will come and join us from other colleges or outside community as well. So again, we can just never forget about that idea of safety and security. And then certainly when students go off campus, you get into that traditional idea of we're in the real world, and the real world is here on campus and off campus as well, and certainly need to always be aware. So that's the first thing that I would say is, first and foremost, personal safety and security starts with you as the individual, and to always be aware of your surroundings and be thinking about that, whether you're on campus or off campus.
Okay. And on campus, what would you say is the biggest public safety concern that you guys have? I know theft or like alcohol use or anything
Sure.
like that.
Well, I think, I've only been on this campus for 3 months, so certainly from my direct experience is very limited. There are a number of things that I think you commonly see on any college campus. Theft is certainly one of them, and if I were looking at things in my short time here from a statistical perspective, that would be the most prevalent issue that I've seen so far as just the number of thefts that are reported to us.
Even with the honor code?
Well, and I think the reality of it is that it's not, the unfortunate reality of it is that many of those thefts or reports that we get for items that come up missing or misplaced or whatever it may be, we have to assume those may be thefts, and oftentimes they're not solved. We're not able to locate the item, or we're not able to identify who may be responsible. So I think that's another one of those areas where we look at it like, certainly with the honor code, we assume that we shouldn't have issues like theft on campus within our own community. But again, it is an open environment, and that is one of those things that theft is often a crime of opportunity, that somebody that's looking to take advantage of that type of situation, whether they're within our community or not, in this open environment, if you leave something of value lying open to somebody that's looking to take advantage of that, and the opportunity's there for them, then they will take advantage of that. So certainly we do have some theft issues. Again, it's not assumed to be folks that are within our community that are responsible for that, but could very well be as well. So, we're not certain about those. And then other issues are very similar to every other college campus I've ever been on. Certainly with a college-age student, you're going to have students that choose to engage in certain types of behavior, whether that be drinking or drugs or anything like that, and take advantage of their social time. So certainly we have issues around that, and I wouldn't, in my time here, wouldn't categorize that as necessarily better, worse, or different than many other college campuses. It's an issue, I think, at any college campus, and certainly something that we're concerned about, because those sort of quote-unquote risky behaviors can sometimes lead to things, to unfortunate situations that we certainly don't want to see happen. So.
And do you think Traveler helps diffuse some of those situations with partying and alcohol and substance abuse, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's great that the university has a system like Traveler, and I think it's great that the students appreciate it and use it so widely. And I do think that it's also important for students to remember that when we're talking about the Traveler system, that it is a privilege, that not every campus has something like that. And
Keene doesn't have a party bus kind of thing.
No, Keene doesn't have a party bus. And a lot of times it's dependent on the atmosphere, the environment, the layout of the college or university, the behaviors of students, whether there's a lot more of the social activity going on off campus or on campus, or if it's close enough by that students can walk easily. So that plays into a lot of it as well. But again, I certainly think it's great that we have the program, and I hope certainly students appreciate it and appreciate that it is a privilege that they do have it, and want to keep it running as a strong program for years and years to come.
I wish it could take me to class every once in a while.
Absolutely.
It'd be helpful. I think we look like we have time for one more question.
Okay.
So I was just going to ask you, with the holiday season coming up, what do you advise for students to do if they're leaving either their on-campus housing or apartments or houses off campus potentially?
Sure. Again, I think first and foremost, it's super important for students to remember that idea of safety and security with whatever they're doing. So remembering that when you're going away for a long period of time, make sure that all your doors and windows are locked when you leave. If you have items of value or particular sentiment to you, think about taking them with you and not leaving them behind, or finding a location within your house to secure them, even more secure than just being inside your locked residence. Hopefully for students that live off campus, maybe they are familiar or friendly with neighbors and can ask folks that will be around during some of the break period to check on their residents from time to time, and if anything seems suspicious or out of place, to call local authorities to have them check on it, because oftentimes students will go away for weeks and weeks and then come back and maybe find something that's out of place or something that's suspicious when they were gone, and the only thing that the local authorities have to work on is, well, it could be any time within this month that I was gone, which leaves very little likelihood for being able to follow up on that as well. So most importantly, make sure doors and windows are locked, make sure valuables are secured or taken with you when you go home for break period.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. It was great speaking to you, Ethan Kipnes, and I hope to see you again. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Sarah Korash Schiff.